VetAssess currently assess over 350 professional occupations across a wide range of industries in support of the Australian Government's Skilled Migration Program. We assess post-secondary educational qualifications and employment across a wide scope of visa categories, including GSM, NSOL, and other state and/or territory-sponsored visas. We also assess DAMA, Designated Area Migration Agreements, and ELA, Industry Labour Agreements, applications, which have been included as additional initiatives to the Skilled Migration Program, which aims to further support current Australian labour demands. The types of professional occupations we assess range from managerial and professional occupations through to associate professionals and support staff who also work within professional fields across a wide range of industries. To ensure we carry out quality assessment services, supporting our own expertise and efficiency, we assess in line with current Australian labour market and industry practice. And in order for us to remain current in our skills assessment practices, we place maximum importance on forming and maintaining strong bonds with both government and peak industry bodies. Over the 20 years supporting the skilled migration process, we've prioritised the formation of industry-specific assessment teams, made up of professionals who've become key in assessing suitability of applicants globally against professional occupations listed under our authority. Once you have identified a VetAssess occupation, you're able to lodge your application online. We then rely on a sufficient amount of information and official documentation that should both outline and support your skilled suitability to the occupation selected. Our online process is a user-friendly one that guides you through all requirements, including both preferred and required documents needed in order for us to make an informed decision. In order to be deemed suitable against a selected occupation, group classification criteria must first be met. For instance, all occupations are classified in groups, starting with Group A through to Group F. Each group classification requires a specific educational or qualification level, as well as a defined employment skill set. So, for all occupations, 3 key areas need to be met. These relate to your qualification level, qualification relevance, and employment. Key requirements for many of our occupations have been defined in occupation information sheets. These are available on our website. These information sheets provide additional and important information on what can be accepted for skills assessment purposes, as well as what cannot. Information regarding occupations currently available for skilled migration are defined or profiled in ANZCO. That's the acronym for the Australian and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations. In short, knowledge of both the ANZCO definition and tasks, as well as the VetAssess group occupation criteria, allows you to gauge whether your credentials may be likely to meet requirements for skills assessment purposes. Using Group B occupations as an example, let's look at the different ways in which an applicant can receive a positive outcome. For occupations in Group B, there are 4 ways to meet the skills assessment criteria. All would require that an applicant holds a qualification we can assess as comparable to an Australian Qualification Framework bachelor degree or higher and highly relevant employment. However, the duration of the highly relevant employment required to fill the minimum requirements varies depending on the qualification relevance and whether the employment was performed prior to or after an applicant completed their qualification. Therefore, if the qualification is at the required level and highly relevant to the nominated occupation, just 1 year of highly relevant employment is required within the 5 years prior to lodgement for a skills assessment to meet the minimum requirements. But if an applicant has a qualification at the required level that is not highly relevant, then we require 3 years of highly relevant employment in the 5 years prior to lodgement to meet the minimum requirements. Alternatively, if in addition to having a bachelor degree at the required level that is not highly relevant, an applicant holds a qualification that we can assess as comparable to an Australian Qualification Framework diploma that is highly relevant to the occupation, then just 2 years of post-qualification highly relevant employment in the 5 years prior to lodgement is needed to meet the minimum requirements. Lastly, If all of an applicant's employment occurred prior to their completion of their qualification, they may still meet the minimum requirements with 5 years of highly relevant employment, in addition to at least 1 year within the last 5. Every skills assessment must be supported by evidence of applicants' identity, qualification, and employment. Acceptable forms of evidence of identity include passport bio pages, birth certificates with either a driver's license or national identity card, and similar official documents. Qualification documentation consists of qualification certificates and transcripts. Employment evidence consists of statements of service from the employer listing employment duration and tasks performed or similar official documentation. Self-employed applicants may provide a statutory declaration and any other supportive evidence of task performance, such as a website or samples of work performed. If an applicant has worked as an employee, then evidence of pay may include payslips, taxation assessments, or employment-linked insurance or superannuation. If an applicant has been self-employed, they need to provide evidence of income such as taxation assessments and bank statements, in addition to client invoices where appropriate. For self-employment, a letter from an applicant's accountant or legal professional attesting to the business entity, nature, and duration is also required. A comprehensive list of documentation requirements to support skills assessment is available on our website. To ensure our skills assessments are genuine, the integrity of the documentation and evidence provided for skills assessments must be assured. Therefore, integrity checks are an essential component of the skills assessment process. This may include phone interviews with applicants or employers and similar checks. Pre-assessment or skills assessment support services. These are optional services available to both agents and applicants and are useful prior to lodging a formal skills assessment application. The support services provide tailored support on how to best prepare and submit assessment-ready applications for our professional occupations. Currently, SAS services include a choice of either a document checking service that assists you in lodging a sufficiently complete skills assessment application by talking you through the required types of documents needed for skills assessment purposes. The other premium service is a telephone consultation delivered only by experienced assessment officers that provides guided information that assists you, any potential applicants, in making the most informed decision on selecting the most suitable occupation based on your credentials prior to lodging a formal skills assessment with us. Please note, however, these services cannot guarantee a likely skills assessment outcome, nor do we take any consideration of either occupation availability or visa eligibility into account when discussing any occupation in ANZCO for comparison purposes. VetAssess has been appointed to perform skills assessments for many DAMA programs. DAMA, or Designated Area Migration Agreements, allows employers located in regional of specific states to sponsor skilled and semi-skilled workers for positions they are unable to fill using local workers. Occupation criteria for DAMA is varied. For instance, an applicant may only be required to hold a relevant qualification, or only to have worked within a relevant employment industry, or both. Industry Labour Agreements, or ELA, are for Australian employers who are looking to sponsor skilled and semi-skilled overseas workers across a range of industries where appropriately qualified Australian workers are not available. VetAssess is collaborating with relevant stakeholders as a skills assessing authority for selected occupations under these agreements. Further information will be announced gradually as more agreements are formalised between government, industry, and ourselves. We invite you to stay tuned on these agreements.